Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rayados90 podcast. I'm your host, Eddie. Uh, Back-to-back weeks, new episodes. I'm trying to stay consistent on these. And another week, another round of new people that I hope can help me for as long as I continue with this. People that I've interacted on Twitter and are really cool people. And so I thought I'd bring them on. They thankfully accepted it. So, you just don't get to hear me, you get to hear different voices. First and foremost, let me start out with I actually don't know your real name. I just know your Twitter name. But we have, if you want to give your real name, uh, what is it? I know on Twitter it says Bambi, but if you want to give your real name and start off right there.
Yeah, it's on Twitter I'm Bambi, but my real name is Jesus. So
All right. So first, I got some other people I'm gonna introduce, but first I want to get your introduction. Just how did you become a Monterrey supporter? And like when did you know like okay, this is the club I want to root for, and all that, just so people can know that side.
bro, since I was a little kid, my mom, she's actually the one that put me onto the team. I remember when I was like 5 years old, I used to live in Monterrey, and we were going out and we saw a bunch of jerseys, and she just bought me the Rayados jersey, and ever since I just became a fan. I love the team, man. I just die hard.
Yeah, and you're one of like the few people I've met on Twitter that speaks English and Spanish. So that was cool. Like when I started the account, I only know like maybe one or two people, and then it's like once the account got a little bit bigger, I was like, oh, there's a lot of people that speak English and
Right.
follow it. On the other, let's move over to Leonardo. I know I've had you one time, but if you can let me know like how did you become a supporter and all that good stuff.
I think we did a podcast, but like 2 years ago. That was like a long time ago. Um, how did I become a Rayados fan? I think just like Bambi as a kid, I still remember one of my fondest memories was a game against Veracruz when Veracruz existed. First of all, this is like 2002, 2001. Um, it was like a 3-3 game when I think Cuauhtemoc Blanco was a Veracruz player. I think that was the first game I went to the old stadium. I still remember the first final in 2003 against Morelia, which is one of my fondest memories as a Rayados fan. I was 7 years old and I just got my appendix done. I still remember waking up in the middle of just like Sunday, like at 5 p.m., 1 hour before the second leg against Morelia, against in the final, and just waking up and having all my family surrounded in the room at the hospital. And that's probably one of my first and fondest memories as a Rayados fan. And I remember my family erupting of from the championship. I guess that's 100% where I understood what Rayados was for me, and that's how I became a true fan of Monterrey.
Yep. That sounds like a really cool story. And then moving on to our last panel of the four-person panel, you got I'm bad with people's names. Nobody takes it personal. And I work in journalism, so like I don't know how that came about, but we have Samira, pronouncing it right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
So yeah, just give your introduction into like at what point did you realize like okay, I really want to support this club. I want to follow it as best I can. Yeah, give us all those details of how you became a supporter.
Well, I mean, I guess ever since I was little, I'm born and raised in Monterrey, but I've been moving cities. So I live in Tijuana, and right now I'm in Arizona. So it's been like a couple of years I moved here from Monterrey. So I've always been a fan. I remember being I guess like 8 years old. One of my aunts, her boyfriend worked for El Norte for Cancha. And I remember waking up in Tijuana with a jersey signed with all of the players. I mean, I think it was like Cabrito and all of them. So it was just like, I was so young and I was so excited. Like, I've always loved football and Rayados. I mean, I don't know. It's just something I feel like I just love them.
Yeah, no, that I when I have new people, I always like to like listen to their perspectives and like how they became a fan and all that because it's always cool to like listen to those types of stories because everybody's pretty much different. Like nobody, it's the common theme is the club, but like how we reach to being a supporter, it's all like just different paths and different journeys. But glad to have you guys all on the board here. Let me just do a rundown of what we're gonna talk about first, and obviously Sergio Ramos debut. But going back a little bit before the debut, the controversy, I don't know if you want to call it controversy, quoted in quotation marks, him being awarded the captain's armband, which I mean Leon did it with James, so it wasn't like out of the no, to me it was no controversy. But then he had his debut. Other topics, we're going to cover the Concacaf Champions Cup, which we're going to face either Saprissa or Vancouver Whitecaps, so another trip to Canada. The upcoming week, which I mean, we don't have to talk about the Masalan game because by the time this comes out, like it's about to it's either just about it's about the game's about to happen, or it's already happened because it's on Tuesdays. But we can go like overall, like it's going to be a busy next 3 weeks. You have 2 matches this week, 2 matches the next week, and 2 matches the following week. So a lot going on there, and then just little other minor topics that I want to get to. So let's get into the controversy that was with Sergio Ramos getting the captain's armband before his debut. There were some people on Twitter and then some people in the Mexican media saying, how do you get somebody who hasn't played in since last late May, and somebody who is just getting into the team and yada yada yada. To me, it wasn't a big deal because it's obviously Sergio Ramos. But then if you like peel back the layers, he's captained the best players on the team. He's captained Sergio Ramos of Spain. He's captained Oliver Torres and Lucas Ocampos with Sevilla. And he's Sergio Ramos. You're not gonna say no. And he has captaincy experience and all this and that. So all those factors, to me, it was not a big deal. But I obviously want to get your guys' perspective. We'll go the reverse. We'll go the reverse order. Now we'll go to Samira. If you can give us just when you saw that quote unquote controversy, what did you think about it? Because obviously Leon already did it with James. They gave him the captaincy, and he's a guy that the reason why he's succeeding with Leon is because he's a player that just needs to feel important. That's what Colombians have been saying and all this and that. It's a player that's captain on Colombia and all that. So to me, if they did it, and I don't even think there was like major uproar, like how dare you give James? Like I know I did see some tweets and all this and that, but it wasn't as loud as what you saw with Sergio Ramos. At least I didn't think it was that loud. But what did you think of just that quote unquote controversy?
Well, first of all, I don't think it was that loud because the way they handled that Ramos was gonna have the badge, it was because that was on the contract. So I feel like that's why they all took it like so like dramatic, like oh it's in the contract, instead of just like Leon maybe like yeah just give him and he's the captain. There's no doubt of it. But I mean, not because of the team he's been like his whole career. It's someone that he was captain because he earned it and because he has whatever it takes to be a leader and to bring a team for whatever circumstances, and especially for Rayados that, I mean, they have great team, they have a great stadium, they have everything, and sometimes they have like that little lack of, they could have done more. Like that's what Rayados fans might be asking them right now. And a player like Sergio Ramos being on the team and, like how he is as a leader and how he is whoever's in front of him, because he's beating to fights with Cristiano Ronaldo. So, I mean, that you have to do your job because he's going to be like, hey, what's up, man? Like, you have what it takes. Just do it. So I don't think, and like, if you're smart enough to understand what Sergio Ramos can offer you as a captain, I don't think you're going to be complaining that he's going to be captain right away. So I think something super fair. I'm not complaining. I'm happy. And also, I'm just like kind of worried that, of course, you're not going to have any problem, but Canales has been always like also someone that earned it. So I know they're pretty mature and they know what they're doing. So that's the only thing I would be like, I don't know, because Canales is also a star. So
Yeah, I think to
that
me,
would
as
be like
long
the
as
only thing I would be complaining about.
yeah, to me, if your best players, which are Oliver Todd, like all the best players on the team, or the players like are at the core of this project, are teams he's already captain. They've been under his leadership. So like if you're getting now, if you know if this was like different players who had no experience with him, then maybe I'd be a little bit hesitant. But these are guys that, like I said, he's already they've experienced his leadership already, and there was no issues there. Like Sergio Ramos, I mean Sergio Canales before either he became official or just about before. I think it was against I don't remember who, but he was like, this is arguably the best defender of all time, at least for him. So like these guys have him like highly respected. So like I don't know. I feel like this was just Mexican media needed something to like talk about or make up. But Leonardo, what are your thoughts on just that quote unquote controversy that came up like on was it like Wednesday, Thursday?
I agree with both you guys, with you, Eddie, and you, Samira. I see no problem and I see no controversy. I actually think that some of the media members, either Cancha, just like you mentioned, Samira, and I actually saw a program on ESPN, and they wanted actually to create a story of something that I personally don't see a controversy. If, again, if Ramos isn't the captain, it's going to be Canales. If it isn't Canales, it's going to be Moreno. And if it isn't Moreno, it's going to be Medina. We're talking about Sergio Ramos. He went, I think, to the 2006 World Cup. He did. He went to 2010 World Cup, 2014, 2018. We're talking about a player who assisted to four World Cups, one as a champion, one as a captain. He has won a Europa League. He has won four Champions League. I mean, where's how much experience do you want as a captain? And your story that people want to create and the controversy that people want to create is that, oh, he's going to be the captain in the first game. I particularly see no problem. And today, if you guys haven't read the newspaper here in Monterrey or read it, one of the stories today is that particular theme. And the actual player who said, I want Ramos to be the captain was Canales. What the story says is that Canales is the most happy in the team having Ramos on the team, and he's the most happy of him being the actual captain. I particularly see no controversy, see no problem. I just think people wanted to create a story because then again, we're talking about Sergio Ramos, and like you
Yeah.
said, we're talking about one of, if not the best defensive player in the last 10, 15, 20 years. We're talking about probably a top five, top 10 defensive player of all time. Even at his age, he looked terrific. He looked great at the game.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get into that. We'll
What
get
do you
into that.
want
But
from him, you know?
we'll get into that. But let's go over to Bambi and give me your thoughts on that whole controversy. Like, did you even think it was a controversy in terms of like Sergio Ramos right off the bat? He's captain.
Nah, I didn't think there was a controversy at all. To be honest, with the whole Mexican reporters, they're always gonna find something to say about Rayados, man. It's like if we're not the topic, nobody's watching. That's the way I see it. So they're just looking for a story. I mean, it's Sergio Ramos, bro. Like he's a leader. Like he's been a captain. Like you guys said, everybody said, all his experience. Like, what more do you want a resume to be a captain? You know what I'm saying? And it's like they just want a story. It's always been like that. It's always gonna be like that.
Yeah, no. I mean, he's won a World Cup, Champions League,
Like, come
captain
on,
the
man.
captain the biggest club arguably in all of football. Captain he
Exactly.
captain he was, Cristiano Ronaldo was never. I mean, when the two were like if they were on the same pitch, it wasn't like it's not Ronaldo being the captain. It's Ramos. So
Like, come on, man. Like
it
Cristiano Ronaldo in his prime. Like he was the captain. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was just one of those things, and then it got amplified a little bit by like that. What was it? the post. It was nutmeg post or something like that. It got like more. It got more publicity in terms of like the English speaking side.
Mhm.
It was just one of those things of like it just caught fire and it's just that. But let's move over to now the debut. It was him starting 11. Uh, Let me go with you, what was your expectation? What did you wanted to see? Because obviously we're talking about a guy that uh, I'm not focusing on his age. I mean, he hasn't played in since late last May, so we're going 6 months, 8, 9 months out of action. What was your expectation to just for you to say, okay, there's I'm comfortable with him. Like there's flashes of what he can be once he's like he gets fully integrated in full action and he's playing close to week in and week out. But what was your expectation? And then once you saw him for those 80 minutes, what did what was your takeaway from all that?
To be honest, I was surprised. Like when I saw him play, when the game started, I kind of like had the expectation that he was gonna play not even close to 80. You know what I'm saying? But not like in a bad way. It's just because like I was expecting him to like take it easy. But man, he came on there. He did his thing. Like I was looking at him when he didn't have the ball, the way he was orchestrating the defense, and he was just doing his thing, man, as a captain. And then those close chances to score, it's like, man, what more do you want? It's like give this guy 3 more games, and I know he's gonna score for sure.
Yeah, no, he wanted to score. Like he
Yeah,
had
he
the
definitely
header.
did.
He had the header that I think grazed the outside of the post and then went out. And then obviously the one where Berterame, I think Berterame was trying to shoot. He wasn't like
Yeah,
trying to pass. It was a shot, but like it was going wide off. And
right.
Ramos was right. He was just like a couple right a little bit. If he could tap it in, but he was just a little bit away from the ball. So he had those two scoring chances. He had like that it was I think it was already two. It was 2-0 or 3-0, but that was where Ramos like did the diving block pass. So like
Hmm.
if
Yeah,
anybody wanted to know like if this guy was just gonna cash in a check and just call it quits and be like I'm just here to get paid,
hmm,
that first game wasn't. I mean, I know some people try to downplay it that it was Atletico San Luis, but at the end of the day, we've seen Monterrey struggle against these types of teams, and they drop points against
yeah,
Puebla, they drop points against Atlas, so it's not like Monterrey's beating consistently
Juárez,
the
they lost
teams.
to
Yeah,
Juárez.
yeah. So I can't be like, oh yeah, well it's a bottom table, it's their team at the bottom. We've seen this club struggle with those. But anything else you want to add from that debut that kind of caught your attention?
um oh well, definitely the way that how everybody's playing now that he's a captain. Man, everybody was under 10. Like I
Yeah.
did, even Arteaga. I know Arteaga has been getting a lot of like, hate on the media that he's been, messing up. But man, he was on, and then Tecatito, bro. It was
The only thing
crazy.
with Arteaga is that like once Sergio Ramos left, he kind of dropped. And if you want to
Right.
blame him
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that goal, like it was funny because like he leaves and then they finally give up the goal. So like
Yeah.
that was like But yeah, I get your point. Everybody was like everybody raised their game up another level
Yeah,
that you
for
kind of
sure.
didn't see. Leonardo, what did you make of that debut? What was something that you're going in? What was your expectations? And then once he played those 80 minutes, what did you come away with it? Like what was something that either he surprised you or it's like yeah met my expectations.
At first, I was surprised of him starting, and of course, being the captain, like we already said, of the controversy. I was surprised because I thought he was going to play, but not starting, and or as a captain. I thought he was going to play like Lucas Ocampos, like subbed him in, like at 75th minute or 80th minute, just for him to get some applause and him to understand how the league is playing. I was really surprised of him, of course, being the captain, of course, of him starting, and I think for him playing 80 minutes after 8 or 9 months of him not playing, he looked fantastic. The defense and the whole team looked so ordered. At one point, while the team was either winning, I think 2-0 or 3-0, and the back line was of five defenders, and the team looked great. They looked sort of ordered. And just like both of you guys have said, as soon as he went out, they scored a goal against us, and of course Arteaga looked like he didn't know where he was. I was surprised of him, of course, playing, let's say, not even 20 minutes. I was surprised of him playing almost a complete match after 8 to 9 months.
And of course, it was Vitinho too.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add from that game that kind of caught your attention?
Well, I don't know if you guys actually went to the game. I did go to the game. It was freezing, like
Yeah,
terribly
that's
freezing.
I saw it on TV. Yeah, it looked like people
It
were.
was freezing, and when he almost scored that goal, like that same goal against Atletico de Madrid in that Champions League final, man, the stadium erupted incredibly. I cannot even begin to describe how loud that roar on the stadium was, and just the people got so into the game. There was chants all over the game, and at some point, of course, I want to be chill and say like, okay, we're playing good, we're doing great. After that play, I was like, we are so back, man. Like we've
That's
never been this back before. Like we are
yeah,
so back. Let everybody know, Rayados are so back.
and
I
who
was so
to?
excited about that play.
Yeah, no, that I feel if he scores, the whole stadium just collapses in there because it was 50,000. At least that was recorded fifty
Yeah,
thousand people at the stadium. Let's go.
my sister was sitting next to me, and she was like a human igloo. She had her whole body and her whole face covered. And when he almost scored, and I got up and I looked at her, I grabbed her and I looked at her and I was like, "Way, Ramos casi mete gol." Like, dude, Ramos almost scored a goal. My sister is like this on the stadium, and she just goes because she's freezing to death on the stadium. Man, that if that went in, I cannot
Yeah,
even begin to
it's just
explain
it's
how
gonna
this
collapse. It
game
was gonna
played.
collapse. Like once
Yeah,
I saw it, once I kind of knew there were, he was still around because I think it was a free kick. He was still there. He went back once Tecatito got
yeah,
the ball. Tecatito puts in a really good cross, and
beautiful
like you
goal.
said, and it just goes. I think, like I said, I think it hits the outside of the post. But like I said, if that goes in, the stadium just collapses. But anything else you
Absolutely.
want to add on from that game that you want to touch on before I
You
switch
know,
over?
that cross from Tecatito reminded me of Chelito's crosses. And at that point, of course, he's been playing very good, Tecatito, of course. But on that particular game, that's where you can say he's back. Like
Yeah,
that player we used to see when he was young, when he played at Porto, and before his injury at Sevilla, we can now firmly say he's back.
yeah. No,
He's back.
he's been he was great against Querétaro. He had the goal and I think 2 assists. But yeah,
Yeah,
this tournament he's been really really good. And I don't like to touch on players' personal lives, but obviously he was going through some personal stuff, and then I don't know how everything is with his personal life, but obviously I'm assuming it's good now that he's able just to focus on football. But Samira, what did you make of the debut? What were your expectations going in? And once you played the 80 minutes, what did you come away with thinking?
Yeah, I guess same as Leonardo. Like I was expecting probably minute 70 that he was gonna go in. Like him starting was like completely random. Like I would never expect him to start. He can tell. I think they actually said that they were surprised of his physique, like how he's like his condition and everything. Like whenever they did the test, they were so surprised he was gonna do that good. Like that was like, okay, I think if you want to play, like I can definitely tell it was something Ramos decided. Like, hey man, I want to start, and I'm gonna tell you if I feel tired or something, but I want to start, and that tells a lot. Also, like the players giving their 100%, even more than 100% on this game. Whether if it's because they motivate him, or if it's because they were actually playing, just going through a good time or something. But you can definitely tell the difference on all of them, and that's definitely something you want to keep in all of the games, not just when Sergio Ramos is. Because I mean, we're not gonna have him for the Mazatlan match, and maybe you're not gonna have him for those kind of matches that you can play with bench, you can play with young players. So you want to keep that, and I really hope that what we saw this first 80 minutes, it's gonna be like that from now on, because you have the Club World Cup, and you cannot be like considering yourself like your team that maybe I'm gonna make a good game and that's it. Like you have a leader with you that it's gonna help you to go through all of the opportunity areas that we had. So not just as a player, Sergio Ramos, but like as a leader, it's already showing what he can offer you. And the only thing I'm gonna ask is, I just want to keep like seeing this, because he literally shut up a lot of media, a lot of haters. Like everyone was like, "Damn, you saw the save, like the save that he did." It was like with his leg when he
Yeah.
threw, like, yeah, that like that was insane. Like even if it's just one, that's what he can offer you. So he did a great job, not because he was just running around and trying to do something. He did a great job as a player, as defense, attacking that head. I mean, after those 20 minutes, like the header he was gonna score, you can definitely tell everyone like turn their expectations like, okay, so now this is serious. So yeah, that was oh my god. I felt like I was so nervous, so excited, like I'm like daydreaming. I can still not believe that he's on our team. And when he like when they were leaving the tunnel and then he was like, "Vamos, señores," I was like, "Oh my god." Like, oh my god, that's when it hit me. That's when it hit me. I was so excited. But yeah, he definitely succeeded all of the expectations I had.
Yeah, I mean, the question was, and I don't understand why people were saying his age was a factor. I mean, I guess I look at players like Thiago Silva. You got Hulk playing in Brazil. Like these types of players that just take care of. Like, I mean, Hulk loves to party. I'm talking about Hulk the Brazilian. Hopefully, people know who I'm talking about. But like these types of players, like he'll probably go out and party and do all everything, but then he'll get to business and take care of his body. Like these players, they're either like, I don't even want to say gym rats. They're just like, though they just treat like they
Very
treat their
disciplined.
body. They treat their body as a temple, or either they party, but then when it's time to get to work, they're serious. It's just on another level, or they're just like super, like they just like their brain or their ability to read the game like Thiago Silva. I'm not going to call Thiago Silva a gym rat or anything like that, but he's just the guy just knows where he needs to be. Uh, he ages gracefully. He's still playing at Fluminense. Now he's at Fluminense. The guy was playing late 30s at Chelsea, still playing in the best league in the Americas at 40 years old. So you got these players that they just either because they know the game and they're smart, they know how to adapt. They don't, if as they age, they're going to lose all their ability to be quick, do all that, but their brain is not going to go away. They know how to defend, or they just take care of their body really, really well, and they're not going to, it's they're going to fall off a cliff. These type of players. So I never understood why the age thing was a big factor, but it was good for him to shut all people up. But before we move on to the other topic, if you guys want to touch on anything else about that game that kind of caught your attention, because but I'll point out some topics or some points that I saw, and then you guys want to add in or maybe elaborate a little bit more. You had Bertrame uh, score again. He's starting to hit. It was that Forge game that finally got the wheels going. So he's scoring. Oliver Torres, last tournament people were like, yeah. This tournament, he is also shutting people up. People who, you know, eh, who either weren't sold on him or were just very critical of him last tournament. Really shouldn't have anything to say. The guy's just been amazing, and he's been really consistent. He played both games against Forge, played the games after that tie against Forge. He's finally getting a break, but the guy's just been on another level. I'm Canales is Canales. I don't have to go into that too much. It was nice to see the defense be with Ramos be consistent and be up. Not concede. They did concede after he left, but it was nice to see them be just solid for 80 minutes. And of course, if you guys want to add something else, and I'll go with Samira. Anything else you want to add to that game that kind of caught your attention outside of the Ramos debut?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna have someone on like as your last man, that you really trust, I feel like Rayados lost that kind of like confidence of like going very like vertical, like frontal, like the attacking. I feel like it was a little bit lost, and that's why we were having problems and we were not scoring. But like the games like the semifinal against Pumas, like the second half, like the last 45 minutes, you would tell that they were like attacking, and that was the last time we saw that kind of attacking from Rayados. So now that you have Sergio Ramos um, taking care of like the line, making sure that they're all standing where they have to stand,
I'm sure.
and
Did you
having
catch the
him
video? Did you catch that video of of him
and he's
like
telling them like,
orchestrating?
hey,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a free throw, or I don't know if it's like a corner. But he's like, hey guys, like, hey, keep the line or make sure you're covering him. That's what he's offering you, so you feel safe. And having people like Canales, Ocampos, Tecatito right now that he's doing great. Oliver Ocampos, Oliver Torres that he's like confident now. So they're sending great center to Berterame, and he can tell because he's scoring. So I think that's what he's offering right now that we needed a lot. We needed to recover that confidence in the attack.
Leonardo, anything you wanted to add about that game that kind of caught your attention? I should have mentioned the Ocampos came on in the second half, made his return. He's I'm pretty outside of Victor Guzman, I think, or and Eric Aguirre, I don't even count because he's always injured. But outside of Victor Guzman and Eric Aguirre, I think pretty much everybody's healthy now. I don't think there's like anybody's like out for a while or out for like that you can say, okay, yeah, they're gonna count on him. But anything else from that game that kind of caught your attention, or do you just want to elaborate a little bit more?
That's exactly what I wanted to point out. Thank you for actually saying that, because this team actually now has good problems to have. Now that Tecatito is actually playing very, very well, you're not going to sit either Corona or Canales. And Ocampos is on the bench. Cortizo is on the bench. Iker Fimbles was playing very good last season, of course, but you now have Nelson de Osa. Victor Guzman is a quality starter, but Estefan Medina is playing very good. My boy Eric Aguirre, who always gets injured, but Ricardo Chavez is playing very good.
Mm-hmm.
So at this particular point, I think the team actually has very good problems to have, where you have quality starters at every position, and they have to fight for it. And I think having players like Sergio Ramos, Sergio Canales, and of course Hector Moreno, they set a standard on the team. And there's a particular standard they have to fulfill. And if one player goes down, you're either not going to play or you're out for the team. Again, I think we actually have good problems now instead of some years ago when, well, I really liked Maxi Mesa. I understand not many of the fans liked him. But then again, you have now quality bench players. We have good problems, actually.
Yeah, no, here's hoping everybody can stay healthy because when you compete in two competitions, you need rotation and you need healthy bodies.
Praying
Bambi.
for my boy Aguirre. Please.
uh, we'll go to you. Anything else you wanted to add from that game that caught your attention, or just a player that you want to elaborate a little bit more that's kind of played well, or you want to recognize? Because, like I said, that Forge game really started. I mean, they should have beaten them, yes, but it was just the matchup that some players needed to really start picking up confidence. And I'm looking at Berterame, I'm looking at Oliver Torres, who didn't get the assist on the Osa goal, but it was pretty much him setting it up. So a lot of these players picked up confidence. But any player in particular that you want to highlight from that game against San Luis?
No, not really. You know what? Since you asked me about what caught my attention, it's actually something that had me worried a little bit. Um, I don't know when we did the cambios at I forgot what minute, minute 80,
Yeah.
and he did like four cambios. It kind of gave me a flashback of like 2 years ago when we had Ponchito and Buffalo, and it's like we make a cambios and then it's like they score on us, and that's kind of like, man, I would hate for that to like reoccur, bro, because we have a lot of games coming up that are really important, and it's like I want to rely just as much as with starters. I want to rely with the cambios, you know. And that's just the only thing that had me like
Yeah.
worried. I was like, man, I hope that doesn't like happen again, bro.
And we'll transition right to the next because uh, this week we'll know who they'll face. I think Vancouver and Saprissa play on Thursday. I'm assuming it's the same days. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but obviously we're gonna know who they play this week. So they play Mazatlan on Tuesday. They know they're gonna play Santos over the weekend, and then they'll either travel to Vancouver or they'll travel down to Costa Rica. Uh, so a lot of games. It's 6 games in 3 weeks. There's all these. Like, I mean, we're seeing it against Mazatlan. You got Oliver Torres that's not going to play. Sergio Ramos is not going to play because you need to rotate. You need to keep, especially because all these players are in their 30s. They're not like 24, 25 where you can say go out there. You gotta preserve their bodies. First, I want to ask, who do you want to face? Saprisa's up 2-1 on aggregate, but Vancouver really destroyed Portland Timbers over the weekend. So and they got to go to Canada. So I'm not even counting this. That tie for me is not over. So who do you want to face? We'll start with you, Bambi. Like, who do you want to face? And over these next 3 weeks, like you just mentioned, you're going to have to count on your bench players, your reserve players, just as much as your starters, because on 6 games, I would think maybe they play the regular starters play 3, maybe 4 games. So you're really going to count on players like Fimbres, Cortizo. I don't know if you want to. I guess you could count Lucas Ocampos because he needs to start building up some rhythm. For 2, maybe 3 matches. So if you want to just dive into that first, who do you want Monterrey to face? Either just because you want to face them, or just because you think it's a better matchup, whatever. Who do you want to face? Either Saprissa or Vancouver, and this just over these next 3 weeks, what are some things that either you're worried about or you just want to see going forward as they try to rotate and try to keep bodies fresh?
Well, going first, who I want them to face, I want Saprissa for sure. Because I've seen LAFC right here in LA. I'm from LA, so I've seen them play Vancouver, and they got a ball, man. Like they're good. And so I've never seen the Saprissa play, to be honest. I don't know where they're at, but yeah, I'd rather go with Costa Rica over there. And I mean, for the next few games, I really like the idea of like rotating players, not only for them to like have a little rest, but for they could like maintain that mm, what's it called? Like if they can maintain that like ball,
Level.
like just playing, you know what I mean? That momentum. Like I wouldn't want them to sit in the bench for like so many games, and then like when a game comes up, they can go into play, and it's like, oh, they're over here just like not knowing what to do and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
because
that's
let's
what I
see,
like.
we're barely at the round of 16 with Concacaf. So you have this upcoming round of 16, which is going to start in March, and then you got the quarterfinals and you got the semifinals. So you really have to start counting on players like Fimbres, Cortiz, like to play starter minutes because Sergio like they're in their 30s.
Yeah.
You have the Liga. It's the act of balancing. You see it all the times in European leagues where teams just balance.
Yeah.
Because they got their domestic cup, they got their domestic league, and then if they're playing in Europe, so you got 3 competitions. So they got to really balance this stuff. But Leonardo, what's something that you want to see over these next 3 weeks, and who do you want to face? Either Vancouver or Saprissa. I saw the game, really wasn't attractive until Vancouver kind of finally broke through. But then credit to Saprissa, they scored 2 goals late, and they take the aggregate, or they take the lead. But in Concacaf, as not many leagues or not many international competitions for their confederation, the away goal counts as the tiebreaker or whatever. So they take, all they need is one, and they can defend or whatever. But I didn't see the game, but they scored they destroyed Portland. So they're riding on confidence heading into that game. So who do you prefer to face? Portland, Saprissa, and what is your either concern or something you want to see over these next 3 weeks, where there are 6 games that they have to balance?
I personally think that Vancouver are going to make the comeback. I don't see a world where Saprissa actually advances, not because I think they're a bad team or either because I think Vancouver are just better than them. It's just mainly because of the weather. I
I
mean, we're
think
talking about
Vancouver placed inside. Unless last year when they placed Tigres is because they had like some type of expo inside their stadium. So it's the same thing with Monterrey right now, where they might have a concert.
yeah,
So yeah, that's what it was, and so they played on Vancouver Island. Now they just might want to play out there, just because you've seen it with like the Mexican national team, where they just want to take them to a cold place and play there, and just because they are accustomed to it. So I don't even know if they're going to play in the cold. So we'll find out. I should have done my homework. I'm a bad host. I should have done my homework and looked at Google and see where they're playing. But yeah, if they play outside, I understand that point. But if they play inside, which they've done against Tigres in Leagues Cup, if I'm not mistaken, so it's either going to be outside or inside. So I'll go ahead and look that up while you're talking.
look, I think the question should be, and I would ask the three of you guys, would you rather play a soccer game at 43 degrees Fahrenheit or 66 degrees Fahrenheit? That's where I think most of the players
Speaking
would
of
actually.
weather, speaking of weather, I would like we will all prefer Saprissa because we also like don't want to get our players injured. But
Yeah,
like,
I
yeah,
agree. I would mainly say Saprissa just because of that. But I
yeah.
do think Vancouver are going to make the comeback just
So
because
they're gonna.
of the way, because Saprissa has to travel, of course, to Vancouver, just like Vancouver just did. But I do think that they're gonna get cold. Mainly, I know it sounds simple. I just
So
think
they're gonna
of
play
that
inside.
is
They're gonna
where
play
gonna be the comeback.
they're playing inside at BC Place. That's an indoor stadium. So it's gonna be indoors. Now they're gonna have to deal with the cold when they're outside training and all this and that.
Yes, sir.
But over the 90 minutes, it's gonna be indoors. They're gonna play at BC Place. It's gonna be on Thursday. So unless they turn down the heat and let the cold come in, I don't think it should factor. At least that's I. Then again, they like I said, they just might let the cold come in and not have the heat, but it's gonna be a non-factor. So it's gonna be indoors, and I think BC Place is turf, so it's not even grass. So they're gonna be playing on turf. So it is what it is there. But yeah, I don't. The weather is not gonna be a factor.
Yeah, it looks like a NFL stadium, you know, like those stadiums that don't look like they're actual soccer stadiums. It looks more like a stadium with NFL purposes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it looks like turf. It doesn't look like, oh yeah, it is. It's field turf. And then again, if we face Saprissa, it's the third time Monterrey would face Saprissa. They faced them in 2005, where they lost a CCL semifinal, which Saprissa then went and played against Pumas, and Saprissa won the championship. And then 6 years later, 2010 and 2011, with Chaka Rodriguez debut. I don't know if you guys actually remember. He debuted that game. That's his first game as a player for Rayados, and he scored a goal. Um, so this would be the third time of Rayados facing Saprissa, or Rayados facing Vancouver for the first time, and going to Canada for
Again,
the second time in
and
less than a month.
then
So
on the West Coast,
it's
so
it's balance, of
they
course.
covered the East Coast, and now they're gonna cover the West Coast for those people
Yeah,
who don't know where
and
Vancouver is.
I do remember you tweeted that they played at 9 p.m. in Ontario, and they're now are going to play like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. on Vancouver. So yeah, that does affect some way or another. I would much rather face Saprissa than Vancouver, and that's just mainly because I think Costa Rica is just a bit less farther, and it would not be that cold for the team.
Yeah,
And then again, like you guys said, it's time to rotate the players.
yeah, and we're gonna start seeing that. I mean, you said Ramos isn't playing against Macedonia, and Oliver Torres obviously gets the rest. I would like to think, not against. I should. The next week, I think they're gonna give Canales a break because he's also been playing a lot. He played. I don't know if it was his call to play at Forge when they went up to Ontario,
Yeah,
or it's because it was so cold that players were like, I would rather be running and like using my body heat or whatever, just being active, so not freezing on the bench. But I thought that was the game they were going to give him off, and then he played the first half against Forge. So he's been playing like he wasn't the starter for again while they're in Ontario, but he's been playing a lot of minutes. And I would like to think that at some point they're going to be like, you know what, even if you don't want to, even if you want to play, you just can't. Like you just got to save them. You got to sometimes save players from themselves because you got to think long term. You just can't think, let's just get these points. But and now let's go over to Samira. Who do you prefer to play, Vancouver or Saprissa? And what are you looking for? What are you looking at over these next 3 weeks, where it's just it's 2 games each week?
Well, yeah, like you said, I would really prefer Saprissa just because of the weather conditions, not because of like the teams. Even though they're not like you're not gonna play the same. They're not like the same styles, or you're gonna play different against them. Um, I I feel like both of them, if they have both legs doing a great job, they can beat them. So like in terms of maybe just like the conditions for our team for the next matches and what we're facing, Saprissa all the way. And again, like that rotation, it would not only give you the rest for the players that you don't want to do like an overcharge of like on a muscle or something. You also need to make sure that players like, for example, Aldair, that had just a couple, just little minutes, and he's doing a great job. He scored a goal. Like they took it because it was offside. So you just want to keep the confidence on those players because if they're playing for the first team, it's because they have what it takes. So if you're making them play with players like Canales, with players like Oliver Torres. They learn from De Osa. They learn from Berterame as a striker. I mean, the young can take the best, and hopefully not. But if someone gets injured, you have a good bench and you have good players that have been playing, that are already used to like the style of the game, that they're not going to be nervous. Because also that being a player, the mental state, like their mental health needs to be really good in games that you need like a lot of pressure, and that's something we have to really appreciate from Iker Fimbres because he's been really consistent, even though he's young, even though he's been playing against good teams, and he's been doing a good job. And like understanding with players like Canales that that I believe the interview he had at Peña Futbolística this last week, he said like players like Jordi Cortizo, that it's the player that you can give him the ball and you're confident that he's gonna keep the ball or make the best to keep the ball, that you're not gonna lose the ball. It's like, well, you want to do that with all of your players, especially the young kids, because if you have you can even do like, I don't know, Aldair, Iker Fimbres, like have all of the young kids play for Santos, like against Santos, and he can just give, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes to Ocampos, to Sergio Ramos, just so they keep, active. But that's what you really want, that rotation, not just for physical, but also to get a team that they're all working together. They all know what they're doing. They're all connected, and that's really important. If you don't work on that, games like Saprissa, games like Vancouver, they're gonna get complicated. So that's not what we want right now.
Yeah, I want Vancouver just because Monterrey has taken a hit against MLS teams. these under Tan Ortiz, they lost. I mean, they did defeat LAFC, Portland, Seattle, Miami, but they also got just I guess destroyed because it was just like that second half against Columbus. They lost to Austin. They lost to Philadelphia. They lost to Nashville. I feel like that aura of them just crushing it, like it's an MLS team. They're gonna either crush them or it's just not gonna be close over two legs. I just want that aura back. Like I don't want I under Don Ortiz. It took a hit because he was just mediocre. Like yeah, he beat Inter Miami, but he also lost to Columbus. He also lost to these other MLS teams. I remember under Diego Alonso, they crushed Sporting, like they crushed them. They crushed Atlanta United. They crushed Columbus Crew under Vasco. So it's like, whenever they faced MLS teams, it was just not even close. I feel like that got lost under Don Ortiz, and I kind of want that back. So I kind of want, Vancouver, and then we're getting a little bit too forward, but we look at the entire bracket where Monterrey is, they should cakewalk to the semifinals because Pumas is imploding. I'm not buying Alajuelense. They got destroyed last CONCACAF against New England Revolution, so I'm not taking them seriously. That might come back to bite me. But you look at that side of the bracket, they should easily cakewalk to the semifinals where they'll get more than likely either Inter Miami, Columbus Crew, or LAFC. Preferably being greedy, I would want LAFC just because I can go. It's only like 20 minutes away easily. But then there's also matchup against Inter Miami. So I know that one too. But yeah, it's going to be a really interesting next couple of weeks. So just on top of that, to close out, give me one player that you kind of want to like, and not the star player, but like a Jordi Cortizo, whether they bring back or whether they insert the Valenzuela kid, who was good against Forge in that second half, and then really good in that second half against Querétaro. Really showed promise for a 17-year-old. What's one player that you kind of want to see just them step up a little bit when some of the star players are not going to be going because 6 games in 3 weeks, nobody's going to play all 6 of them in terms of like starting. So give me one player where you're like, I really want this player to step up, or you just want to see if they can step up. I'll start with Samira. What's one player that you kind of want to see step up, or just one player that you think can step up when some of the starters are not going to be playing?
Aldair, all the way. Because he's young. Have you seen like how tall he is and how buff he is?
Yeah.
Like you can definitely work with him, and if you know how to get him like confident and learn and have the least amount of errors he can do, just work on him because he's definitely like you can tell he's hungry. You can tell he wants to be there. You can tell the minutes he had. He can like you would see a lot of like good dashes of like visions of the game, like some passes that you were like, I mean, for being that young and that unexperienced, imagine him working with him, giving him the confidence, putting him like around good players. He would be
Yeah, because I mean I don't know where you want to put Forge. I would say if they were like in a tier system, they would be second, maybe third division type of team. And for a 17-year-old, he showed that he can play against that type of competition because he was just dribbling. There were some moments where there was one that I gift of him and just having like that one touch with Arteaga. There was one that they also should have scored because he kind of set him up. That should have been his first assist. So the guy showed that he can play against, and Querétaro was a second team or second division team masquerading as a first division team. So he showed that he can play against grown men that are the equivalent of a second or a third division team for a 17-year-old. Because I feel like some of these players in Monterrey's youth system, they're just too good for their age. Like you need to challenge them because at some point, if they get bored, or maybe they can get sloppy and be like, maybe I can get away with stuff playing against people my age, but if I play against a 25, 26, 27-year-old, you're not going to get away with that, right? So I feel like you have to challenge them, get them up. I don't rush them, but just gradually, like they've done with Valenzuela, just give them those 45 minutes, let him get through the process, and then he starts figuring things out. Because I think, and I'll point out him, the Nigris and Mojica, they're just I think they're just too good for their age. I mean, they're challenging them. Like Denigris is playing at under 19. He's gonna be 17 in 2 months, I think. So he's 16, going on 17, but he's still playing against 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds. So he's playing against guys a year and a half to 2 years older than him, and he's still scoring goals. So I think at some point, if they're just too good for their age, you kind of need to challenge them a little bit to see if they can play against grown adults, and then see, okay, can they handle it, or maybe they can just learn from what they need to learn from this experience, and then take it down to the youth level, and then go from there. But Leonardo, what's one player that you're looking to see over these next 3 weeks, kind of like step up, or you think they can step up, when the team needs them, because they're going to rotate?
I would really like to see Fidel Ambris to step up. I really do like how the way he plays. At some point, of course, they're going to rest Corcho Rodriguez, which I really like the way he plays. At some point, they'll have to rest him. I would really like to see Fidel Ambris playing with a bit more confidence. I think he has been a very good player for León, and I think he has been a very good player for Monterrey when Corcho wasn't playing last season. But at some point last season, he had two very awful errors, and you saw his confidence go down. Then he scored a very beautiful goal against Necaxa, and I would really like to see his confidence go up. I think he could start playing better. If there's a particular player, top one, that I really want to see him play better, it's Roberto de la Rosa. Of course, we don't talk about him. Nobody thinks about him. Um, I still remember reading about him and looking at his stats. I love looking at players' stats. That dude was great at under 17, under 20, under 23, but he hasn't been that player at the pro level. He has to play at some point, and he is going to play. I think a lot in the next 6 games, either against Vancouver or Saprissa, maybe against Santos because they suck. Let's be honest. And I think that's a team where he can play a lot, and maybe he can score. And Roberto La Rosa reminds me, like he reminds me of Vincent Janssen. We all remember where Janssen just couldn't score. He tried so freaking much and he just couldn't score. Like he was in front of the goal and he couldn't score. Roberto reminds me of him. Like he's at that particular slump. He's
I
trying
mean,
so
he
much.
hasn't scored since 2023.
Yeah,
We're going
well,
on two.
he
We're
scored
going
a
on 2 years.
in 2 years, but he has assisted in some way. Of course, he assisted Nelson de Osa
Mhm.
in against Forge. That's a player. He's going to play at some point, and of course, Plátano Alvarado. At some point, they are going to get more minutes, and they have to step up because if Berterame, for whatever the reason, can't play, you have Alvarado or De La Rosa. They
This is
have
where I
no
would
other
I would
choice.
roll I would roll the dice on the Niggas and call that. Well, he's going to be 17, so call that
And
17 or Bojica,
I know you're
because
very high on Joaquin Mojica, and they televised the game against San Luis under 23 on in YouTube. And like you said, I think he's 18 years old.
yeah,
He's 19 years old, and he's not playing in under 20. He's playing under 23, so he's up a category.
yeah,
He has 12 goals in 24 games,
yeah. These
and
guys,
he's
the, all
playing.
all all and the Niggas scored a brace too. So like all these
Yeah,
kids are like, just by their play screaming for an opportunity, and at some point they they De La Rosa and Platano have to like show some, like they have to play like, there's
at some
kids
point
like, yeah,
they have to.
there's kids behind me that are really like, they're by their play are screaming for minutes. They have to like, and that's the whole point of competition. You have to step up. You have to say like, no, I'm not gonna let a 17 or an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old kid take my job. So we'll see. I respect your opinion. I'm just not a De La Rosa believer.
If he scores, if he scores, everybody's going to be like Efecto Ramos.
Uh,
That's Efecto Ramos all
it's
day.
just like when Santos won this past weekend. They're like, everybody was surprised. So I feel like it's gonna be the same thing. Let's close out with Bambi. What's one player that you either believe is gonna step up, or just want to see if they can step up? What's one player that you got in mind?
Bro, I would really want to see Tony Leon, man. I would really want to see him step up. I don't know. He hasn't got a lot of minutes,
He looked good
and
against Forge. I granted, like I
yeah,
said,
he
it's a
did.
second or third division side, wherever you want to place the Canadian Premier League. But he played. He came on for Ramos. Got a
Yeah,
little bit dicey. Um, you know, I do have you because Hector Moreno is getting up there in age. You
exactly.
obviously have to preserve Ramos. You can't roll him out you need to preserve him. But is there like I don't know if it was just the Forge matchup, but is there a reason why you want to see Tony on? Because whether it be hey we need to have more depth at center back because all outside of Victor Guzman they're all 33 and older.
Right.
But is there a reason why you want to see more or want to believe in Tony Leone that he can step up? Because I think he's 21 years old. 20, yeah, he's around
Yeah.
there.
Well, just because he's a youngster, man, and like you said, Hector Moreno's getting older, and we always have a lot of defects in our defense. Was like Eric Aguirre's getting hurt, and you got all these like small little things that if you got a youngster that shows potential, steps up, and you go build him into being a great like defender, it's like I don't know. I think that that'll be great for our team. He hasn't. I've seen him play like what 3 times I think, and it's only not even like a half. And when in that game that he played with Forge, it's like yeah, the game was like the conditions were horrible, but even though like the conditions were bad, like I still saw like really like good potential in him, man. I think he'd be a great like potential like
Yeah.
starter one day.
Well, I mean, he's coming off the bench for Ramos. I'm assuming, and he played against Forge. Like I said, all three outside of Victor Guzman, all the starters are 33 and older, so you
Exactly.
got to preserve them. You can't just keep rolling them out. You need to count on Guzman to find his level that he had in the past, and to see if
Yeah.
Tony Leone can raise up in his game and be a good decent backup when you need to rotate. But I'll rotate one more last time. Anything you want to add? Close out where people can follow you, Bambi. I'll start with you. Anything, final thoughts or whatever.
No, everything was pretty straightforward.
Well, man, really glad that you came on, man. I really appreciate it. I know we
Yeah,
chat on Twitter, so
appreciate
I'm
you for
glad.
inviting me, man.
Leonardo, anything, last thoughts, anything you want to add before we go?
I guess just like Bambi, I have nothing to add up. Well, I guess thank you for inviting me to the podcast, and congrats on returning to making the podcast. It's
Yeah,
good to see you after 2 years, man.
yeah, no, it's I finally stopped getting lazy. I was like, there was no excuse. I was just
You
lazy.
locked in.
Yeah,
You're
no,
you're locked
I was
in.
like, the time I decided to take a hiatus, they go to the final, they sign Sergio Ramos, they sign Lucas Ocampos, they signed Oliver. Oh no, I think I was doing the podcast when they signed Oliver Torres, but yeah, they signed the Club World Cup opponents were made. Shout out to Aurora Red Diamonds. I've never seen them play, but I found their jersey on eBay and I scooped it up. But yeah, there's a lot of things, and it's like, okay, I have to do it. I got to stop being lazy.
I'm
But
gonna
yeah,
buy tickets to go and watch the Rayados games. I'm gonna try. First of all, I'm gonna try to buy tickets to watch the games. Of course, I'm going to LA. I'm gonna see you, man, and we're
yeah,
gonna go to.
I
We
hate
have
the
to go
Rose
to
Bowl.
Roscoe. We
I
have
have,
to go to
yeah,
Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles, man. We
yeah,
have to go
yeah.
there.
But I hate the Rose Bowl. I hate that stadium. There is like, I'm not gonna go into it. But maybe when we preview that, like, I'll air out all the hate I have for the Rose Bowl. But yeah, Zamira, anything you want to add in terms of where people can find you, Twitter, and just final thoughts? Anything else you want to add to wrap this up?
Well, yeah, you can find me on Twitter. It's Shaif Samira, I think. Yeah.
I'll tag you. They'll
Um,
find you there.
I think that's my ad. But yeah, thanks for the invite. I always love like hearing different point of views, and I feel like media right now is being so like I don't know, like unbiased. Like you have to understand that even though you root for a team, you can speak from other teams, and I feel like now Rayados. I don't know if it's because of the hate that we're getting from like they're jealous of Ramos or I don't know. It's just like I feel like they're just like black and white, like
Yeah.
yes and no. So it's just like hearing different point of views and like from all of the players, like De La Rosa, like you know. Um, but yeah, it's just like I'm excited to see what's gonna happen for Rayados. I'm excited to see how Sergio Ramos is gonna affect with like through all the whole team and like their well yeah how they connect like their mental state like
Yeah.
how they're gonna do for the next games even though they're not complicated rivals but we need to show and we need to win and we need to understand that this game needs to be we need to score goals and this is when we need to recover because we're not doing very well right now. I think we're ninth place.
Yeah.
So we need to get back in track. And I really hope everyone has the opportunity to show what they have and take everything they can learn. And hopefully for the Club World Cup, that I'm also gonna be there. I'm so excited. I need to see Ramos like first row, and I don't know, man. It's just like the Rose Bowl gives me so good like flashbacks because of the LAFC game they
Yeah.
had at Leagues Cup. So man, that was a honestly I would rate that the best Rayados game I've ever been because like really short. We bought like I went with my brother. We bought tickets like we were so desperate and we bought the first tickets that came out like to sell. And we were like, I want to get tickets. I don't want to be there and not have tickets. And turns out like I don't know if you noticed, but like how they sold the tickets, like they were just opening certain areas. So
Yeah.
where I got the tickets, I was literally next to like LAFC people and like all in between LAFC people.
Yeah.
And
Same.
me specifically, I'm like I really get into the game, so I'm like standing up, like, hey, that was not a foul,
Yeah.
like, hey, what the fuck, like, So it was uncomfortable being around them. So I really hope this time I get to be around Rayados people. For the second half, I was able to go with like Rayados people, but still it was like it was insane because we were losing two against like 2-0. So it was like man, it was insane going like from 2-0 to 3-2. So it was one of the best games, and I really hope I get that vibe here for the
Yeah.
Club World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I bonded with some older gentlemen. He was the only Monterrey supporter in my and like he brought his family, but his family was like not. I feel like he dragged his family and he was the one into it. But yeah, I was in a sea of LAFC people. I got beer splashed on me when they scored the second goal, so it was a terrible experience. Towards the end, when they choked that lead, it was the best experience because it was just nothing but quiet and just be like people wondering what the hell just happened. So hopefully they get that vibes, but we'll definitely preview it, and I'm sure you'll defend Coach Rodriguez. I don't think Twitter is enough for you to defend that man. So like, we'll the next time we'll have you. If any hate,
Shout out to that guy.
if any
He's
hate comes
feeling
his way,
brave. I feel like this man is recovering his confidence. He doesn't get the like. I don't understand why there's so much hate. Like why? He's good. Like he's so like he's on the back. He's not gonna be scoring goals or like doing like just be
yeah,
patient. Those kind of players you don't mention him, but he's regaining his confidence and man, those barridas he's doing, they're so clean, they're so punctual. That's definitely Sergio Ramos tips over there. So I'm so excited. I'm so happy he's back.
I know you'll defend him if you have
I'm
to
wearing his
defend him.
shirt right now, like Gocho, so
So, I
you
know.
know.
Thank you guys for accepting it, and I know I'm going to have you guys back. I'll reach out to you guys. Definitely, really appreciate that you guys accepted the invite. I gotta get used to saying this because it's now on YouTube. Like, subscribe. Yeah, it doesn't take all that, and it just helps people know that there's an English-speaking podcast for Monterrey, or for anybody that doesn't speak English. Because doing this account, I've realized that there's different people from different walks of life that somehow support Monterrey, and I don't want to be just narrow-minded and be like, oh, it's just people from Mexico or people from Mexican Americans, or there's different. Through this account, I kind of realized that there's people from all walks of life that support Monterrey, and it just never dawned on me because you don't know who starts following Monterrey and for what reason. But yeah, like, subscribe, just to boost this. Doesn't take anything. But yeah, thank you for listening. Uh, Chat next week.
Thank you.